Look who's back with us, Brexit Party leader, Nigel Farage. Nigel, we missed you. We love having you on. Nigel, your reaction to this week's events and the passing of the Queen. You know, people want heroes. They want to look up and out from their experience, beyond human experience. They want qualities and hopes and hope in their lives. They want positivity, right? So this is what this feels like, too.
Well, this woman represented honesty, decency, morality, hard work, duty, and above all, service. And I feel with her passing, we're moving into a world where those qualities are much rarer than they used to be. I can't even begin to tell you how I felt when I heard the news that she'd been taken seriously ill. I felt sick to the bottom of my stomach. And then at 6:30 last night, we got the news she'd passed. The emotions that has raised in just tens of millions of us in this country is beyond description. And I was at Buckingham Palace today, and I watched streams of people walking down towards the palace, carrying in their hands their floral tributes. And you know what? Nobody was even speaking. It was complete. You could hear cars, the odd plane going over. There was huge crowds of people and total silence. A nation numbed by its loss of this incredible woman, the most famous woman in the world, the most loved woman in the world, a woman known everywhere in the world simply as the Queen. You didn't need to ask which country. Everyone knew exactly who she was. So it's been a very emotional, extraordinary 48 hours. And to think that just hours before she died, there she was, welcoming Liz Truss as Prime Minister, with a smile, clearly very ill, but with a smile on her face, the 15th Prime Minister that she'd welcome. The first one, of course, being the great Winston Churchill. She met 13 American presidents during her time. It is as if something remarkable has come to an end. The last global figure of any import to have worn uniform in World War II.
Interesting,
so
yes.
It's been very, I mean, I can't even begin to tell you.
Nigel, we feel you. You know, it's palpable. It's coming through. Nigel, this is very much about coming together as a nation, about the soul of a nation, the identity of a nation. What do you make of the new Conservative Prime Minister, Liz Truss, in her very first move, unleashing UK oil and gas, unleashing energy independence, lifting the ban on fracking, new licenses to drill oil in the North Sea. But the U.S. is going the opposite direction. The White House is shutting down U.S. oil and gas and energy independence. So this is about the soul of the nation, how we define ourselves, right?
Yes, I mean, clearly, clearly the Queen operated on a non-political level, and it's important to make that point, and part of why she's succeeded. Liz Truss, I mean, look, Liz Truss has come out of nowhere. It is utterly bizarre that she's Prime Minister, but she is. And I've got to tell you, I am giving her the benefit of the doubt big time at this moment. I have been screaming for 20 years, if you keep building wind turbines everywhere and thinking that will prove your salvation as you pursue your moral crusade towards net zero, you're making a terrible mistake. We import 50% of the gas that we need to burn to back up the system when wind power isn't working. So America starts from a far better position than we are, but we are now sending a better signal than Biden's administration is.
Yeah, to your point. Let's listen.
It was amazing. I was watching Liz Truss's speech as she said, we are going to start fracking. We want to be energy independent. I was cheering. And then suddenly a piece of paper came into the House of Commons.
Yeah, and now, but England has 19% inflation, to your point, due to punishing gas and energy and the cost of living.
Cool.
In the U.S., inflation is hitting double digits in more U.S. cities. And Biden's energy policy is draining the strategic reserves to the lowest since 1984. Taxpayers are going to have to pay for that twice, to fill it up first and then fill it up after he drains it. And the energy secretary says they're going to continue to do that before the midterms. Critics say this is for the vote. You know, I want your reaction to this. The Democrats here are launching a campaign, an ad campaign, to turn out the green vote, touting the hundreds of billions on green energy. Nigel, I want your reaction to this, because this is important. Again, it's about the identity of a nation. The White House press secretary claims she doesn't know about the energy secretary saying that California is a model for the nation on green energy as it faces rolling blackouts. Watch this.
Last Friday, the Energy Secretary said of green technology in California that state was in the lead and showing the rest of the nation how it's done. The state is currently bracing for blackouts. They've set ambitious goals, and yet in particular, their governor is asking folks there not to charge their electric vehicles. Does the president agree that California is an example for the rest of the country as it transitions?
I haven't seen those specific statements. I would like to see it in fuller context that the secretary has made, so I'm not going to comment on something that I haven't seen in full.
California is in the lead, can show the rest of the nation how it is done.
In my mind, in all honesty, it's like, okay, great, whatever, but like if we're waiting for 2040 to get rid of gas vehicles, like we're doing something terribly wrong.
That was Democrat Tim Ryan. Nigel, to wrap this up, I mean, England is facing, Goldman Sachs says, 20 or 22% inflation rates in January. The U.S. has double digit. Talk to us about leadership and the importance of leadership in leading a nation out of a crisis that's now inflation hitting both sides of the Atlantic.
The dollar is strong, the pound is weak, the euro is weak because of one six-letter word, energy. Whatever mistakes the Biden administration are making, or the lunatics in California are trying to do, you are still relatively in a better place than us. If you want to wake up quickly, see the disaster net zero policies are doing to my country, and do not make the same mistake.
Nigel, final word on the passing of the Queen.
A magnificent woman, a very, very sad moment, but let's reflect on the values of duty, Christianity, decency and service that she's shown us for 70 years. And let's try to make sure those values are taught to our children as being good things.
Nigel Farage, a pleasure having you on. We're so sorry, and we join in mourning the loss of the Queen. Thank you so much. It's good to have you on. We'll see you soon.